Hi, this is Marissa with Dollar Sprout, and today we're talking about emergency funds. So what is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is simply money that you have set aside to help cover an unexpected expense. And here are a few situations that may justify dipping into that emergency fund. Your pet is suddenly sick and needs a $2,000 operation to live. A family member passes away unexpectedly and you have to fly across the country to be with your family and attend the funeral. Your car breaks down and you obviously need it to work so that you can still be able to have some sort of mode of transportation. Or you suddenly lose your job. These are just a few examples of situations where you may need to dip into an emergency fund to cover an unexpected expense. But there are also a lot of other situations that many people may consider an emergency, but they certainly are not. So here are other situations where taking money out of an emergency fund should not be justified. Getting gifts for holidays or birthdays or special occasions are totally not an emergency. Neither are expenses that you can plan for and you know are coming up, like insurance, taxes, or even tires for your car. Another thing that's not an emergency is a great deal on something that you want. So avoid those sale signs because it's really not an emergency. And even those spontaneous trips and vacations are not reasons for you to be taking money out of your emergency fund. So now that you know what constitutes an emergency and what does not, let's talk about how much money you should keep in an emergency fund. And I will say that this definitely does vary depending on your family, your lifestyle, where you live, and where you're at in your financial journey. If you are single, renting a home, have a steady income, and are working on paying off debt, then you can probably get by with an emergency fund of around $1,000 to $1,500. But on the other hand, if you have kids, you own a home, and your income varies month to month, then you might want to aim for an emergency fund of around $5,000 to $7,000. And then once you've paid off your high interest debt and your finances are steady, it's time to beef up that emergency fund. Aim for at least 3 months worth of living expenses to keep in your emergency fund. So living expenses for the month would be things like a monthly mortgage or rent payment, and additional things like utilities, food. Add up the cost of your basic necessities that you would need to live for 3 months and keep that as your emergency fund. But if you have dependents or are self-employed, you'll want to keep about 6 months worth of living expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. Ultimately, a 12-month savings cushion would be the goal, but don't let that discourage you if it seems far away. So now that you know how much money you want to keep in an emergency fund, let's talk about how to build up that emergency savings. First off, open a savings or a money market account. Your emergency fund savings should be kept in a separate account from your daily checking because you don't want to be tempted to touch it. Remember, it's strictly for emergencies. So keeping it in a separate savings account or a money market account will help you to remember that it's not available for daily use. Then make a budget. A budget is your backbone to your financial journey and is so important to have. This will tell your money where to go and it will help you accomplish your financial goals so much faster. Then start small. If you feel like you can't put a ton of money into your emergency savings every month, start with what you can. Even $5 to $10 here and there will add up over time. Don't be overwhelmed by the grand total that you'll need for your emergency fund, but instead be encouraged by the small steps that you're taking by building your emergency savings. Next, prioritize your savings. Consider the idea of paying yourself first. So make saving a non-negotiable line item in your budget, just like you would with your rent or your electric bill. This will help you to build the important habit of saving money. Then cut expenses where you can. This is a way that you can find quick wins in your budget by cutting things that you don't necessarily need. So take a look at your budget and see if you have any subscriptions that you don't use, maybe that gym membership you signed up for 6 months ago and you've gone to the gym twice, and see what kinds of things you can cut if it truly isn't applicable to you in this season of life. Also, take a look at that eating out category in your budget. Maybe there are some things that you can do to trim out going to restaurants and instead cook meals at home. Remember though that making these sacrifices is just for a season and you're making the short-term sacrifice now for the long-term benefit. And then look at increasing your income. This is an amazing way for you to add extra money to your emergency savings goals. You can do this by taking on a side hustle, like a part-time job outside of your day job that will bring in additional income for your household. Or you can see if there are overtime opportunities at your day job. Another way to bring in extra income is to sell things you don't need. So take a look around the house and see if there's anything that you can part with and make some extra cash. Increasing your income is a quick way to get that emergency fund fully funded. So now that you know about emergency funds, it's time to take action. So take a look at your financial situation and see how much money you should keep in an emergency fund and find ways to get it funded as soon as possible. And the next time an unexpected expense comes up and you have the money set aside, it will feel a lot more like an inconvenience rather than a true emergency. So thanks for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed this and learned something new about emergency funds. And don't forget to subscribe to the Dollar Sprout YouTube channel for more videos. We'll see you next time. Bye.